So it's inaugural season at United, and today we are flying on what I think is one of their most unique routes yet, going from Tokyo Narita all the way over to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. And today I have it all for you, from the pre-flight ceremonies and celebrations, to the fun and the experience of the flight itself, the welcome we got in Ulaanbaatar, and even the exclusive invite-only after-party at the Shangri-La Hotel in Ulaanbaatar itself to celebrate the new route. We're also going to briefly cover why Mongolia and how this route is even possible, so stick around for it all. Before I made my way to Narita Airport, I spent the morning in the beautiful Narita Village where it was quiet, peaceful. I got to visit a Buddhist temple, I almost fell in the water, a garden snake chased after me, and even the fish started yelling at me. Yeah, just your average Thursday afternoon. Anyways, back to Narita Airport we go, where it's a simple train ride that's only 2 stops away, and from here we take the escalator up to the basement level, and from here, even more escalators up to the departures level. Welcome to Terminal 1, where this particular section is dominated by Star Alliance, and United Airlines operates out of the E section. United flies to 11 unique destinations from here, guys. That is insane for an outstation. I lined up in the Premier Access lane to try and get my boarding pass, but because of my 1K status, they moved me over to this Global Services line. Probably the only time in my life I'll know what that feels like. If it's applicable to you, Narita Airport does have a gold track for premium cabin travelers as well as Star Alliance Elite members. From there, it's 1 escalator ride down to an immigration lane, and thanks to my US passport, I was able to use the electronic gates and be on my way. United has a nice little club here at Tokyo Narita, and it indeed did not have anything special in store for the inaugural flight. Regardless of that, this lounge still is quite a solid space. There's a large amount of seating, and it does feel like a normal United club, but with a Japanese twist and theme to it. This lounge can get crowded in the afternoons with that large bank of United wide bodies heading back to the States, and there's a decent amount of food options as well. The United Club here in Tokyo has 2 buffet sections. This is one of them, and it features a wide range of cold cuts, hot food items, including American options as well as Japanese options. Now, United, I love you guys, but this takoyaki was not very good. Some of the pieces I had were raw, but at least there's alcohol to occupy your taste buds and spike your blood alcohol levels. And of course, it wouldn't be an American carrier lounge without some ice cream. Now, before we get over to the gate for the inaugural festivities, I just wanted to quickly go over how you can access this lounge if you choose. You can access this lounge through the normal Star Alliance rules. However, for United Airlines, they also have a club membership through which you can access it or buy a one-time pass. Waiting for us at the gate was the typical new route and new destination poster, along with some goodies. Here we had a sake box, some green tea, and Mongolian cupcakes as they called it. Now, with that out of the way, our host was ready to kick off all the speeches and ceremonies for this flight, and these speeches are a few minutes long, so to keep with the flow of this trip report going, I won't show you the full speeches here, but you can check them out at the link in my description. First up was Patrick Quayle, who's United's Senior Vice President of Global Route Network and Operations, and he basically just introduced this route and gave his welcomes and thank yous. He's a very familiar face on a lot of these inaugurals. A few other people from United and local dignitaries did also give their welcomes and thank yous, but a good portion of the program was in Japanese given that we were flying from Tokyo. After it was done, it was time for the wonderful traditional sake ceremony, which is also known as Kagami Biraki. This translates to the opening of the mirror, and this is a ceremony that's meant to symbolize good fortune, harmony, and new beginnings. If you ask me, an inaugural flight is a perfect new beginning for this. The ceremony dates back centuries to the samurai era, where the ceremony was performed to mark the start of a new battle or a new year by breaking open a sake barrel. Flash forward to 2025, this is still a very symbolic and culturally auspicious event. Everyone was given special kimonos, which symbolizes the cultural continuity of the event today. You'll see that they use unpainted wood and mallets because the plain wood represents purity and naturalness, which are key values in Shinto tradition. The act of breaking open the sake barrel signifies a new and fresh start to a new journey ahead, and you'll see multiple people take part in this breaking the barrel together to show unity and cooperation, which in my opinion is very fitting here as plenty of different groups had to collaborate to make this route happen. After all the ceremonies were done, our flight deck team got a quick picture for the books and then headed on board to pre-flight the aircraft for our flight today. Our aircraft is November 35260, one of the Guam-based 737s, and it just flew in from Cebu right before this flight. Pre-boarding eventually began for Global Service 1K and I raced my way up front.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
You.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you flying with us.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Take care. As you just saw, all passengers boarding this flight got the same welcome bag, and we'll look at the contents of this just in a few minutes as soon as we get on board. Hello.
Hi, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Business class was a classic 2-2 configuration with the same seats that I've seen on United for over a decade. Waiting for each passenger was a nice Polaris teddy bear that you really only see on inaugural flights now, as well as a thin blanket and the menu for the flight. The economy cabin is in a standard 3-3 configuration, and these Guam-based 737s have 5 rows of economy plus to open the cabin, which is where we're sitting today, and then 2 normal rows, then you have the 2 emergency exit rows, and then the rest of the cabin is economy. These Guam-based United 737s are a little bit behind technologically and cabin-wise compared to the mainland ones. However, we'll talk about that later. My window is also pretty dirty, and that may not seem like much of a problem right now, but we're gonna see how that video quality really deteriorates as we fly into the night. Looking back at the goodie bag we got, it followed a lot of the standard stuff we get from other inaugurals. We got a nice welcome note from Patrick Quayle, a postcard with the classic person wearing sunglasses, and a reflection of the new destination we're going to. We also got a US Mongolia flag pin, a sake box engraved with the inaugural details, a poster, and even a pajamas shirt. It had all of the inaugurals from this year on it, which was pretty cool, and of course our current destination. The pajamas were unfortunately American large, so there was no chance of it fitting me for normal wear after this flight.
Flight over to Mongolia. It's going to be 5 hours and 9 minutes. Your captain, Metrono, helping me is Captain Cameron O'Neill, and we have 4 of the Guam-based flight attendants.
As the Japanese tradition continues of waving flights goodbye, we began what I thought was the longest pushback ever, as we had to push back all the way out to one of the main taxiways. As I enjoyed the views of ANA's flying Honu A380, which specifically flies between Tokyo and Honolulu, it was a good time to be at Tokyo Airport because all the ANA wide bodies were lined up getting ready for their flights to North America. The evenings are a particularly busy time at Tokyo, especially because all the Japanese and North American carriers are loading up and getting ready to go for their flights over to the US, Canada, and Mexico. As we made our way out of Narita, the people on the left side of the plane got to experience Greater Tokyo as well as Mount Fuji, and I, on the right side of the plane, got to experience the glare of the sun. Now, these Guam-based 737s really just hang out around the Pacific and kind of do their own thing. They don't come back to the mainland for any upgrades, so they do still have the old tiny seatback screens, and just be ready because these planes aren't equipped with Wi-Fi. And despite the bistro onboard menus being in the seatback pockets, they didn't have any of the usual tapas, takeoff, or reclined snack boxes on this flight. What you do get instead is an actual full meal service, which honestly was a surprise to me, and I didn't know what to feel considering no US carrier on the mainland serves a meal. So to be on a United flight and getting a full meal service, I definitely wasn't complaining. Now, all of these cabin crew members are Guam-based, and I had a chance to talk with every single one of them. They were all wonderful, super excited to be on the flight, and just a joy to be around. One of these crew members in particular was a younger guy named Eris, and He got on this flight simply by swapping with somebody because he wasn't senior enough to get it on his own. Here he is to tell us about our meal options on today's flight.
We have 3 choices today. We have our Mongolian beef, barbecue chicken, and our vegetarian with Mongolian dough. Can I do the Mongolian beef? Thank you.
Turns out, the food that we got was the exact same as what was served in business class, except they just had better plating. And my goodness, what a colorful plate of food do we have here. I sure as hell could not imagine anything like this coming out of any of the US hubs. This is the Mongolian beef, and it came with carrots, mushrooms, bean sprouts, onions, some other root vegetables, and it was delicious and really flavorful. The salad was pretty good as well, and it came with this like yogurt garlic sauce that honestly I could have sworn had sesame in it as well, but I couldn't be 100% sure without a menu. And dessert was fantastic. It was this panna cotta, and it wasn't too sweet at all. It was really light, airy, and while it had a sweeter flavor, it also came with these Mongolian berry pieces on top, which provided a perfect tarty contrast. Honestly, really good. All I can say is that meal was absolutely delicious, and while I'm digesting this meal, I think now's the perfect time to talk about why United thought this route was going to work, and also how in the world are they even legally allowed to operate this. So first things first, United's route making decisions are data informed, not data driven. What does this mean? Patrick Quayle did say that all airlines do have access to the same data, but it's about the different conclusions that each airline draws from the same data. These airlines look at a lot of different kinds of data. They look at global aviation datasets, passenger volumes, demand trends, competitive presence, yield potential, and just so many other things that even I don't even have in my mind. Patrick Quayle from United also saw this route as an opportunity as it was decently served before the pandemic, but certain airlines were slow to return this service after COVID, and so United decided to jump in and let's see how this route performs. So as you can see, the economics of this route is definitely a fascinating one to look into. However, what I think many of you might be wondering is, how in the world can United, an American carrier, fly from a Japanese city to a Mongolian city? Well, let me tell you. There are 9 freedoms of the air, which is a rough set of rules that govern how airlines can operate in and between countries. And in the case of our United flight, it is the 5th freedom of the aviation rule that applies, and the ICAO definition is listed here, but my definition is simply, an airline can take passengers from its home country to a second country, and then the 5th freedom segment is where it can pick up passengers in that second country and fly them to a third country. Here's a practical example of what I mean by this. Singapore Airlines has long had a route SQ12 that I've been flying for well over a decade that goes from Singapore to Tokyo Narita to LA. Now, Singapore Airlines begins in its home country in Singapore and flies to Japan, where Tokyo is. From there, it can pick up passengers and exclusively fly passengers between Tokyo and Los Angeles. That is the 5th freedom segment because it is taking passengers from a country outside of its own home country to Los Angeles. However, it's a continuation of a flight that originated in its home country and retaining the same flight number SQ12. With this in mind, let's apply the same concept to United's routes. United flies from 5 mainland destinations to Narita and 2 more American cities in the Pacific. And yes, Guam and Saipan absolutely count as American cities for this exercise. So United is operating from 7 total cities in its home country and flying to Tokyo Narita. And with these routes in place, this now opens the door for United to operate 5th freedom routes from Tokyo Narita further into Asia, but they have to be a continuation of one of the flight numbers that you see here. And so when you look at United's route network further into Asia from Tokyo, you're going to see a lot of familiar flight numbers on these 5th freedom routes. For example, the Tokyo to Cebu flight is UA32, which is a continuation of the Los Angeles to Tokyo flight, which is also UA32. And just like that, UA7 to Ulaanbaatar, which is where we're flying, is a continuation of the Houston to Tokyo flight, which is also UA7. And while most of this does make sense, some of you still might be wondering, well, wait a second, most 5th freedoms I've flown is the same aircraft for both segments, so why am I able to fly a 777 from Houston to Tokyo, but then the flight number continues on a 737 onwards to Ulaanbaatar. Well, the reason for that is there's a clause in the Fifth Freedom Rights that's called a change of gauge, which allows you to change the actual aircraft itself but continue the flight number. So United can continue using all their flight numbers from all these US flights and explore smaller destinations and smaller markets further in Asia. It's really a smart way of trying out new cities and seeing what works. Coming back over to the flight, the time was flying by pretty quickly, honestly. The flight, of course, started off great with the takeoff, the meal service, but then this is a 5-hour flight at the end of the day, so it kind of slowed down a bit, but I was talking to Patrick Quayle for about 45 minutes, and our combined disdain for coffee. Yeah, who would have imagined United's head of route network doesn't even drink coffee? But then after that, he decided to get some rest, and then I chatted it up with the crew, who are all Guam-based, remember, so I really just wanted to know what that island life was like. I've never been to Guam, so I wanted to see how the island was, where all they get to fly, and what the United base was like. At this point, we were well into our descent, and the town you see out the window is not Ulaanbaatar, but the city of Nalaik, which is about 32 kilometers southeast of Ulaanbaatar, and what an interesting place it was. I actually got to drive through it a few days after. And remember when I told you earlier in the flight that my window dirt was not going to be a problem then, but as it got darker it would be a problem? Well, now you're seeing exactly why. But to be honest, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference because given that this flight was arriving at night, there wouldn't be much views. At the end of the day, this airport is 50 kilometers from the city, so you're pretty much flying over what is basically a desert as you descend into Ulaanbaatar. I mean, just to put it into perspective how far we really are, what you see through the window is the town of Ulaanbaatar, and behind that is Bogd-Khan Mountain National Park. There is an entire national park that sits between the airport and Ulaanbaatar. I really couldn't make this up. Welcome to the first American carrier's touchdown in Mongolia and at Ulaanbaatar's Genghis Khan International Airport. Guys, we finally made it 5 hours later. And there was even a water cannon salute waiting for us. Guys, I haven't been to that many inaugurals in my life. This water cannon salute was a first ever for me.
United Airlines компани Ulaanbaatar хөдөлгөөжсэн анхны нислэг Vietnam байсан та бүхэнд маш их баярлалаа. Дараа дахин мөнхийг хүсэн өрөөж хүний нийт гишүүд танд сайн мөнхийг хүсэн өрөөж баярлалаа.
As we pull into the gate, the flight may be over, but the celebrations are far from over. Stick around for some airport celebrations that begin as soon as we get off the aircraft, and as always, use the chapters below to skip around as you wish.
Hello. Flying with United Airlines.
Making our way through the concourse, there were a few things set up for us, including getting passport covers, being able to take pictures with locals in traditional clothing, and funny enough, they had the return inaugural poster set up for us, the flight that would be flying back tomorrow morning from Ulaanbaatar to Tokyo, and it was being flown by the same flight deck team that flew us into Ulaanbaatar. Some of the passengers were taking picture of memorabilia, and local media were even trying to interview some of the passengers that had come off the flight. Some of them even came up to me and asked me for an interview, but I didn't even realize as I was taking a video. I only found out after the fact. The following day, I got to wander around Ulaanbaatar for a little bit, and it very much reminded me of a post-Soviet city in its architecture and layout, but it still carried a strong sense of Mongolian identity and culture rooted in its rich history long before Soviet influence. Interestingly, Mongolia has two different scriptures. You have the classic Cyrillic scripture, which you'll find in any post-Soviet country today, and then they also have their own scripture, which normally people write side to side in most other languages, but they actually write top to bottom, and it almost looks like Arabic that goes from top to bottom. It was really interesting to see. I'd never seen anything like it. Wandering around the city was great, but there was one last United related event for us. In the evening, at the Shangri-La Hotel in Ulaanbaatar, there was a special invite-only event for media, local tourism agencies, airport officials, United Airlines staff, and even local dignitaries that welcomed the route to Mongolia. In attendance for this event was also the Mongolian ambassador to the US, which was really cool. And the US ambassador to Mongolia would have attended this event, but he was too busy flying the reverse inaugural from Ulaanbaatar to Tokyo. Mongolia's tourism department was also in attendance and well represented, featuring pamphlets and all the amazing places that you can visit in this country. And sitting at the head of the table was the awesome, okay, I'm gonna butcher his name, but here goes, Davasambu Temulen, and he was really hospitable and awesome and super knowledgeable about the country as well. If you ever come to Mongolia, get in touch with him. He's going to make sure you have the best time possible, and I know I'm definitely going to. Amongst many other people also in attendance was United's Asia Pacific sales team. This dynamic trio of Sophia, Marilyn, and Elaine, who's the regional head of United's Asia Pacific sales based out of Singapore, have a new route and a new country to keep on their radar. Now, the ceremony did go on for the full evening, so I don't want to show you the full thing because the speeches were quite lengthy. I'll show you the highlights here, and if you do want to see the full version of anything, the link will be in the description. But to give you the rundown, several pertinent people did speak, such as the Mongolian ambassador to the US Deputy Chief of Mission to Mongolia, the head of tourism for Mongolia, and of course Patrick Quayle himself welcoming the route and thanking the relevant people. There was also a nice 3-course meal available that consisted of a smoked salmon, beef, and a brownie. All in all, it was a great networking event. You had tourism professionals, ticketing agency professionals, airport officials, local dignitaries, United Airlines staffers from all around the world, and just locals, all in one place to celebrate this new route and this new partnership between 3 countries. Really great to meet all these different personas and their roles in making this route happen. And of course, while we were networking, there was some traditional Mongolian music and bands performing in the back. They were honestly really great. I had to look them up after. So, what are my thoughts on this flight overall? The flight itself was fine. It was a standard 737 flight, a bit on the longer side, crossing 5 hours, so it's a standard cross-country flight within the US, and especially given that these planes don't have Wi-Fi, something to keep in mind. But you do cross some really cool landscapes. In our case, we flew out from Japan into the Sea of Japan and then crossing over South Korea, and we even got glimpses of North Korea, which was really sick. From there we flew over into China and then Mongolia. Not your normal everyday stuff that you see on a United 737. As for the route itself, I think it's really cool what United is trying to do with Mongolia and other smaller destinations. By leveraging the 5th Freedom Air Traffic Rules as well as the traffic rights that the US and Japan have in place, United can essentially fly their 777s and 787s into Tokyo, and then from Tokyo they can just throw darts at these different unique destinations like Ulaanbaatar and Kaohsiung, and guess what? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you scrap the flight number, you scrap the route, and reuse that flight number for another destination you want to try. It's really a smart way of building United's footprint into Asia, but doing it differently. We simply have not seen this level of creativity from any other US carrier. So will this route survive the test of time? Only time will tell, but I'm definitely rooting for its success, and I know if I want to come back to Mongolia in the future, I have a new option to do so.